Have you ever wondered why Korean farmers can grow incredible vegetables in some of the harshest mountain terrain in Asia? While American gardeners spend hundreds of dollars on synthetic fertilizers and chemical sprays, Korean farmers have been using techniques for generations that cost almost nothing and work even better. After 3 decades of growing food in my own backyard, I stumbled onto Korean natural farming a few years ago, and it completely changed how I think about soil, plants, and the invisible world of microbes beneath our feet. Today I'm sharing 5 Korean farming techniques that most American gardeners have never even heard of. These aren't complicated or expensive. They're simple natural methods that work with biology instead of against it. And stick around to the end because I've got a bonus tip using something you probably pour down the drain every week. Before we dive in, I want to introduce you to a Korean phrase that ties all of this together. It's called jaeon. Nonggopi, pronounced jaeon nonggopi, which means natural farming. The philosophy behind it is simple but profound. Instead of importing fertility and fighting nature with chemicals, you cultivate the beneficial life that already exists in your local environment. You work with the microbes, fungi, and bacteria that have evolved in your specific climate and soil. When you understand jaeon nonggop, these 5 techniques stop seeming strange and start making perfect sense. The first technique is collecting and using indigenous microorganisms, often called IMO in Korean natural farming circles. This might be the most powerful thing you can do for your garden, and it starts with a wooden box and some cooked rice. Here's how it works. You cook plain white rice, let it cool, and place it in a shallow wooden box or bamboo container. Then you bury that box under a few inches of leaf litter in a healthy forest or undisturbed natural area near your home. Cover it loosely and leave it for 3 to 5 days. When you return, the rice will be covered in a fuzzy white mold. Those are the indigenous microorganisms, the beneficial fungi and bacteria that thrive in your local ecosystem. You bring that colonized rice home, mix it with an equal weight of brown sugar, and store it in a jar. The sugar preserves the microbes and keeps them dormant until you're ready to use them. To apply, you mix this concentrate with water, about 2 tablespoons per gallon, and drench your garden soil. You're essentially inoculating your beds with the same microbial community that makes forest soil so rich and alive. I started using IMO 3 seasons ago, and the difference in my soil structure has been remarkable. It's darker, it smells earthy and sweet, and my plants just look happier. This works in any USDA zone because you're collecting microbes already adapted to your climate. The second technique is fermented plant juice, called FPJ, and it turns garden weeds into free liquid fertilizer. Korean farmers have been making this for generations, using nothing but vigorous plant material and brown sugar. Early in the morning before the dew dries, collect young growing tips from nutrient-rich plants. Comfrey, stinging nettle, lamb's quarters, or even fast-growing weeds work beautifully. Chop the material, weigh it, and mix it with an equal weight of brown sugar in a jar. The sugar draws out moisture and nutrients through osmosis while beneficial fermentation begins. Stir daily for about a week until you have a thick, sweet-smelling syrup. Strain and refrigerate the liquid. To use FPJ, dilute 1 tablespoon in a gallon of water and apply as a foliar spray or soil drench every 2 weeks. You're feeding your plants with easily absorbed nutrients and beneficial microbes. I make batches from different plants throughout the season, rotating comfrey nettle and mugwort to give my garden a diverse nutrient profile. The cost is essentially 0, and my plants respond with vigorous, healthy growth. The third technique is something called Oriental herbal nutrient, or OHN, and it works like an immune booster and pest deterrent for your plants. This one takes more time to prepare, but a single batch lasts an entire season or longer. You'll need garlic, ginger, and licorice root, though some Korean farmers add cinnamon and angelica root as well. Chop each ingredient separately and ferment them individually with brown sugar, just like the FPJ process. After a week, add rice wine or cheap vodka to extract even more compounds. Let everything ferment together for another month, strain it, and you have a concentrated herbal tonic. Diluted at about 1 teaspoon per gallon, OHN gets sprayed directly on plant leaves. The garlic and ginger compounds deter aphids, fungal diseases, and other common problems, while the herbs seem to strengthen the plant's own defenses. I was skeptical until I tried it on my tomatoes during a bad blight year. The plants I sprayed with OHN stayed healthier far longer than those I didn't. Korean farmers say OHN works like medicine, not food, so you apply it when plants are stressed or under attack rather than as regular feeding. If these techniques are opening your eyes to a whole different way of gardening, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. I share practical wisdom from gardening traditions around the world every week, and I'd love to have you along for the journey. The fourth technique is something I call Ondal-inspired hotbed growing, and it borrows from one of Korea's most ingenious inventions. Ondal, pronounced ondol, is the traditional Korean heated floor system where warm air from a fire circulates through channels beneath stone floors, keeping homes warm through brutal winters. Korean gardeners apply this same principle to extend their growing season using nothing but decomposing organic matter. Here's how it works. In early spring, you dig a trench about 18 inches deep and fill the bottom 12 inches with fresh horse manure, straw, and green materials like grass clippings. As this material decomposes, it generates heat, sometimes reaching temperatures of 120 degrees or higher at the core. You top this hot layer with 6 inches of good garden soil and plant directly into it. The decomposing material below acts like a natural heating pad, warming the root zone from beneath and letting you plant warm season crops 3 to 4 weeks earlier than normal. I built my first hotbed 2 springs ago when we had a late cold snap threatening my tomato transplants. The soil temperature in that bed stayed 15 degrees warmer than my regular raised beds. Those tomatoes never skipped a beat, while my neighbors were covering and uncovering their plants every night. By midsummer, the hot composting action is finished, and you're left with beautifully enriched soil for the following season. This technique works especially well in zones 3 through 7, where spring comes slow and unpredictable. In warmer zones, you can use a modified version with less manure to avoid overheating tender roots. The fifth technique is something I call kimchi-style soil fermentation, and it's a bit more experimental but fascinating nonetheless. Just as Koreans ferment cabbage with salt and beneficial bacteria to create kimchi, some Korean natural farmers apply similar lacto-fermented amendments directly to their garden soil to boost microbial populations. The idea is that lactobacillus bacteria, the same organisms that make kimchi tangy and preserve it naturally, can outcompete harmful soil pathogens and create conditions where plants thrive. You can make a simple version by collecting the liquid from homemade sauerkraut or kimchi, diluting it heavily with water, about 1 tablespoon per gallon, and drenching your soil before planting. Now, I'll be honest with you, this technique is more debated than the others. Some gardeners swear it transformed their problem beds. Others say they notice no difference at all. The science on direct soil application is still emerging, but the underlying principle is sound. Healthy soil is alive with beneficial bacteria, and adding lacto-fermented materials introduces billions of those organisms. I've tried it on one bed for 2 seasons now, and the soil does seem to have better structure and fewer disease problems, though I can't say for certain whether that's the fermentation or other factors. If you're adventurous, it costs nothing to experiment. Just don't expect miracles. Now, here's the bonus tip I promised in nut you, and it might be the easiest thing you'll ever do for your garden. Every time you rinse rice before cooking, save that cloudy water. Korean farmers call this sesal do mul, pronounced sal de mul, and it's loaded with starches that feed beneficial lactobacillus bacteria. Let the rice wash water sit in a covered jar at room temperature for 3 to 5 days until it smells slightly sour. That's your lactose serum. Living probiotic for your plants. Dilute it 1 to 20 with water and use it to drench transplants, boost struggling seedlings, or inoculate your compost pile. You've been pouring free fertilizer down the drain your whole life. Now you know better, and there you have it. 5 Korean farming techniques that most American gardeners have never encountered, from indigenous microorganisms to fermented plant juice, from herbal nutrients to Ondal hotbeds. These methods represent generations of wisdom from farmers who learned to grow abundance without spending a fortune on store-bought inputs. Korean natural farming teaches us that everything we need is already here, in the forest soil, in the weeds, in the kitchen scraps we throw away. We just have to learn how to work with it. Pick one technique and try it this season. Start with something simple like fermented plant juice or saving your rice water. See how your garden responds. I think you'll be surprised at what's possible when you stop fighting nature and start fermenting with it. If this video introduced you to something new, I'd be grateful if you hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment and tell me which technique you're most excited to try. Thanks for spending this time with me today. Now get out there and grow something amazing.